Okay, kind of a big Vikings story of the day. Not a free agent signing. We made a trade with the Texans. It involves draft picks. We picked up their first round pick this year, pick number 23. Um, and in exchange, uh, we gave up our second and uh, next year's second, and also there's a swap of some late round picks in there as well. Um, this has got everybody excited because everyone's like, oh, this is the ammo we need to trade up into maybe even the top three to get a quarterback. Um, I like my initial reaction looking at this trade was, well, we didn't get superior value in this particular trade, but I think it's pretty obvious this is probably going to be, part one of multiple deals. Um, it's one way to do it. You make multiple trades to acquire draft capital, and then you use that draft capital to trade up. It doesn't have to always be like a one-on-one thing. I'm kind of of mind that, like, you got those two first round picks. Maybe if you like this guy Penix, maybe you just draft him at 23 and draft some stud defensive guy at 11, because we still need a lot of help on the defensive front. Probably not what they're doing. They probably are going to trade up. They're probably going to try to trade up into at least to number like 4. Um, you know, the JJ McCarthy thing is just, that's the name that is talked about the most. Drake May is also in the mix. Probably those top 2 guys. I mean, we're not going to obviously trade to number 1, and number 2 is Washington, and they're going to probably take that Daniels. So it's pick 3 at best. But we'll see. I mean, we're still like 6 weeks from the draft, so there's a lot of time. So I don't like the trade as the one trade. If it is like part 1, then when it's all said and done, then we can see what the value is. I'm a mind like I'm not one of these guys who is just like, oh my God, we have to get this quarterback. This is the quarterback who's going to be the superstar. We have no idea. They don't have any idea. You just don't know. That Penix could be as good as any of these guys. I've said before, I think it's a mortal lock that, like, of the consensus, like, top 3, at least one of those guys is going to be a bust, and at least one of the guys drafted after them is going to be better. Is going to be pretty good. Maybe that'll be Penix. I know with him, there's like an injury concern and some other things, but I think he's also a little older. But I mean, he could be great in the pros. Like, and frankly, you could probably get him at 23. I mean, if they came out of the first round of this draft with Penix and a defensive guy at 11, I'd be thrilled. But we don't know that that's what they're going to do. But that one thing I do like is this gives you this extra draft capital now. Maybe you could be able to trade up and not give up next year's first round pick. Because, I mean, at some point you're trading so much that it can just really just cripple you. Look at a team like the Panthers, like what they gave up to go get Bryce Young, looking like an absolute terrible decision. But we'll see what happens with that. So I don't really like the trade, but if it's part 1 of more, then I do like the trade. So I haven't done a video in a couple days. Let's do some wrapping up of some stuff. Probably the biggest Viking story then in the last couple days, player-wise, Harrison Smith is going to be back once again. He took a pay cut to come back. Let's talk, obviously, after the season that he might retire, or that he might just be released. Because let's face it, he's not very good anymore. But he's an all-timer Viking. He's a possible future Hall of Famer. And I don't think anyone's upset about seeing him back for another year. I don't think I saw what he's actually getting paid, but it's obviously not going to be very much. And if as just a guy out there in the mix, he could be okay. We signed Jerry Tillery, who was a D tackle, most recently with the Chargers, I believe. Not, he's kind of one of these guys who was a first round bust, sort of. He's bounced around already to a couple teams, but we're very thin at the defensive front, so he'll certainly have a shot. We've taken on a few of these first round busts or underperformers as like reclamation projects already during the Kwesi era. Most of them haven't really worked out for anything, but it's a guy who'll be in the mix. We signed God, what the hell, I already forgot his name. We signed a receiver. I forget his name. I forget his name. Sheffield or something, or Sherfield. Sherfield is his name. And it's just a cheap deal. He's, he'll be a, maybe a fourth or fifth receiver. I can't imagine he's going to be like number 3. We still, KJ Osborne's still out there. We can still bring him back for cheap. I mean, if we want to bring him back, we did lose a couple guys. I think it hadn't been official yet. Daniil Hunter is out of here. He went to the Texans, which I don't know if I predicted in video form, but I did predict somewhere that Daniil Hunter was going to go to the Texans months ago, because I think he's from Houston, or from Texas. Kind of not as big a deal as I anticipated. I think it's like a $50 million deal or something. He was looking to get like a bank breaking type of deal. Kind of makes me wonder, well, could we have maybe got him back? But we obviously, instead of spending a lot on Hunter, we spent it on several defensive players. So Hunter, another longtime Viking, probably a Ring of Honor player for the Vikings. One of the best draft picks in the history of the team. When he was drafted, he had barely gotten any sacks in college, and people were like, "What are we doing?" And then he becomes like an instantaneous star with the best of the Zimmer era defenses. I wouldn't say he was empty stats there the last couple of years, but I mean, he would get sacked. He gets sacks, but on a really bad defense. So like, how much are you really worth in that sense? It's like, it's hard for like one guy who's great to kind of mask everything else. But so Hunter gets his big payday. We lost DJ Wanham to, I think, the Panthers. I was hoping we'd get DJ Wanham back, because obviously we're very thin defensive front, pass rushers and tackles. He didn't get paid that much. Now he's coming off an injury late in the season. There might have been some hesitation there, but I would have hoped to get DJ Wanham back. Didn't happen. I don't think any other guys have signed elsewhere now. We did re-sign Brandon Powell, which I liked a lot, because he was very, very useful last season. Who else did we sign? We re-signed another guy. I can't remember who. I should always take notes when there's this much player movement. Who the fuck else did we re-sign? We re-signed somebody. I know we re-signed somebody. That's what we did. And then another talker the last couple days is based on some things that our guy Kirk said in his press conference to introduce him to the Falcons. There might be some tampering issues going on there, because now I don't know full on what the rules are with tampering, but Kirk basically said that he was talking to players on the team. Now I don't know if that's necessarily forbidden. It's definitely forbidden for like a front office to talk to guys, but to what extent can you talk to guys? It's probably very muddy. That there's people who think we're going to get like huge draft compensation. We might get a late round pick if we're lucky. That's about the best we can hope for. So a lot of stuff still happening. I mean, obviously it's quieted down now. It always quiet. That for those first few days of free agency are always crazy. A lot of stuff happening. Obviously, the bigger news for us this week has been the departures than the arrivals. But I do think Kwesi has done a pretty damn nice job with some of the wheeling and dealing this week. And you know, we'll see what happens now with if there's going to be another move, because they are going to take a quarterback. They will take a quarterback in the first round, no question about it. And they better, because I don't want to watch Sam Darnold. I'm sorry. Maybe there's something untapped with Sam Darnold, but I can't watch, a season of Sam Darnold. And I'm not one of these people who's going to be like, okay, if we just kind of forfeit another season to collect draft picks, like, no, let's not do that. So, I mean, there's some guys out there still that I would like to resign. I mean, we haven't. I guess we didn't make an offer to Reisner. I'd like to bring him back. I think he played pretty well. We let go of we let a couple of guys that were like restricted guys hit free agency. Cam Akers was one, but he ain't gonna be back now. Yeah. So, but the big news of the day is the draft trade with Houston, and it's spicy. It's interesting to me. But again, I don't know that I would be heartbroken if we didn't trade up anymore. If we just was like, hey, we got 2 first-round picks. One of them's in the high 20s. Maybe we can take a quarterback then. And you never know. Maybe guys aren't going to be taking us. Everyone's going to be taking us high. Maybe it's all smoke and mirrors. You gotta take everything you hear this time of year with a grain of salt. So, but our man Kwesi, he is a cooking.